progress.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for Wednesday, January 21st, 2026, 9:04 a.m. My name is Ty Mentzer, Chair of the Board. To my left is Vice Chair Commissioner Wayne Fournier. And then to his left, Commissioner Rachel Grant, Commissioners Emily Klaus and Carolina Mejia on Zoom, County Manager Leonard Hernandez, and Assistant County Managers Jennifer Walker and Josh Cummings. The meeting is being live streamed to the Thurston County YouTube channel. Written public comment may be received up to 2 hours before the meeting and distributed to the board. Action may be taken at this meeting. Our first item this morning is introduction. Shauna Stewart, Interim Director, Experience Olympia and Beyond.
Thank you so much, Chair. It's my pleasure to invite Shauna Stewart up to the table. Shauna Stewart and company, if you wanted to bring the others that are with you.
I think they want to be in the cheerleading section.
No problem.
Yeah.
As Shauna gets seated, I just wanted to make mention to our board and to the public. It's been exciting to have Shauna step in as interim director. Our initial interactions have been very positive, and we've seen some wonderful progress, like most notably having Commissioner Wayne Fournier assigned to the board, which was a request of our Board of County Commissioners. So, and I know that there's staff in the audience that were working on that. Sometimes things take time to work through, but thank you so much for making that a priority and it not getting lost in the shuffle when you come in new. It's easy for a lot of things to hit you all at once, but you were very attentive to that item. So without any further ado, I'll just hand over to you to introduce yourself, and we're glad that you're here.
Thank you. And thanks for giving me the time to come and introduce myself. I've been the interim CEO at Experience Olympia now for about 6 to 7 weeks, though this is my second time in the gig, but just really wanted to take an opportunity to come and introduce myself, say hi, and then also just open the doors for future and ongoing communication for the next 9 or so months as our executive team and search committee look to find a permanent position. So I did bring notes, and as I was explaining to my daughter, there are times I occasionally forget even my own name. So I am just going to focus on these. Let's see, as I mentioned, I did get to serve as CEO of Experience Olympia and Beyond from 2015 to 2020. And during that time, I was able to bring my 15 years tourism experience, destination marketing experience, and economic development experience to this organization and community that I know and love. And really, as a result of this background, I really understand both the opportunities and responsibilities that come with this role. During my interim period here, my focus is really clear. I'm here to provide stability and support for our great staff. They have been working really hard over the past several years and then over the past year in the absence of a CEO to really keep tourism moving forward in a meaningful way. So continuing to just provide leadership and support for them. I'm also here to help maintain strong relationships with local stakeholders, of course, Thurston County being one of those, and really looking forward to just keeping the ball moving forward with tourism and our marketing efforts moving forward as well. So marketing, group sales, public relations, all of these things are driving real economic impact for Thurston County. So wanting to make sure that all of those balls keep moving forward. And I don't know why I keep using sports analogies because I will always mix metaphors. As you know, tourism isn't just about visitors, but it's really about supporting our local community through jobs, tax revenue, and community vitality. Here in Thurston County, the visitor economy generates $572 million in direct visitor spending annually in Thurston County. So this is money that's going into our local restaurants, local shops, grocery stores, transportation, hotels, etc. These revenues support over 4,000 direct jobs across hospitality, retail, transportation, and services. and contribute $56.7 million in state and local tax revenue. So this is money that our residents don't have to pay for services and infrastructure that we all get to enjoy. So the visitors are subsidizing our lifestyles here.
What was that dollar amount again?
Yep, 56.7 million in state and local tax revenue. This is meaningful, measurable economic impact that supports county services and local businesses across our communities. Our role at Experience Olympia and beyond is to ensure that Thurston County remains visible, competitive, and compelling because people have a lot of choices on where they choose to visit. And we especially want to help manage visitor expectations, travel behavior, and regional competition as we can continue to evolve. So making sure that people coming into the community are know how to experience our destination in a meaningful way. From a marketing standpoint, we are actively focused on qualified demand generation. So we have key targeted audiences that we're working on targeting and generating into our area, not just building awareness. We currently, I'm going to give you a little micro report, but we currently are advertising in SeaTac Airport. We're creating and distributing official visitor guides for Thurston County, promoting individual community guides, promoting things to see and do on social media, and managing a robust website that's adapting to the use of large language models. So we're adapting our content to meet the needs of visitors and consumers as they continue to rely on AI and ChatGPT. And speaking of GPTs, we are actually in the process of designing and creating 3 GPT personalities that will be integrated into our website to provide trip planning services and support key industry influencers in choosing Thurston County. Part of accessing these GPTs will be signing up for our newsletter, so we'll continue to nurture those visitors on an ongoing basis after they have access to those GPT personalities, so stay tuned for that. Our group sales continues to be a critical driver of overnight stays and mid-weekend demand. So our focus includes meetings, sports, group travel, and supporting local hotels and venues through lead generation and RFP coordination. We basically serve as a one-stop shop for meeting planners, sports planners, and tour operators. And by strengthening our partnerships and relationships with those key influencers, we're able to bring larger groups to the area. This week, we're opening up a group sales manager position who will work to bring this group business to our hotels, venues, and sports facilities. This has just been an open position that we are excited to work on filling. And what I personally love about group business, bringing it to the region, is that when people are introduced to our area through a sporting event or a meeting, it's really hard not to want to come back. Right? So if you're spending time in meetings, maybe we've all been to those conferences where we've spent the entirety of our time in a hotel or a meeting facility. It gives us a taste, but we want to come back for more. And so in addition to bringing those meeting planners in and getting those groups to hopefully experience more beyond a hotel and a venue, getting out into the region, we also want them to come back for repeat business. Public relations also plays an important role in how Thurston County is perceived, both regionally and nationally, and our focus is on actively promoting things to see and do in Thurston County, highlighting experiences that are authentic, local, and distinctively Thurston County, and reinforcing the region as a competitive destination, both for leisure, travel, and events. As we discussed in a meeting with staff last week, a key differentiator for our area is the Thurston Bountiful Byway, which showcases our agricultural heritage, food system, and rural communities. And this product is something that really helps set our region apart and tells a story that visitors increasingly value, one that's based on local experiences that are sustainable and experiential. Looking ahead, FIFA 26 is presenting a significant opportunity for Thurston County, so thank you for your leadership in securing a fan zone for our region. Our approach is both proactive and collaborative on FIFA. Number one, we are partnering with the Thurston Chamber of Commerce to support marketing efforts connected to the local fan zone. And we're actively promoting Thurston County to visitors planning trips to the Seattle region during the World Cup. So we're deploying Google ads, Expedia ads, digital programmatic ads, all targeted visitors already planning on attending matches. We're also targeting those who live in Seattle who might be looking to escape the area and bringing them to our area during that time. But through all of this, the goal is clear: to encourage visitors to stay longer, explore further, and include Thurston County in their travel plans. So again, this isn't necessarily competing with Seattle, but it is about complementing the region and capturing economic benefit locally. As one of my former CEOs said, Washington State has an embarrassment of riches, and we certainly have our fair share here that we want to share. So in closing, my commitment as interim CEO is to lead with experience, transparency, and collaboration, to support the team during this transition, and to maintain strong partnerships with the county, cities, and the private sector, while also continuing to drive results that benefit Thurston County residents and benefit businesses. I appreciate the board's continued support of Experience Olympia and beyond and the visitor economy, and I look forward to working closely with you during this interim period, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Sean?
I'll talk.
What's that?
I'll talk.
Okay.
We're all really thankful and excited for the opportunity to be part of the VCB board. I think that there's the reciprocal benefit is great. Like the intel that I get from going to your meetings is very helpful. There was stuff last night that we talked about. There was interesting. I think the kind of the FIFA picture was, I thought, a little interesting that we were reported out on. I don't know if you want to I was going to share them.
Yeah.
What was said, but you could probably do it better than I could. And then the kind of plan for the rehiring of a director looked to be like a really nice collaborative process that will involve a lot of the different stakeholders, and so that's exciting, and that'll be fun to get to be a part of for this whole organization.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so in terms of the FIFA numbers, I actually might count on my team member Kelly to help me out with the numbers in particular, because she sat in on a report from Expedia and Airbnb. So do you want to share the numbers of that?
The report,
Just so that it can be picked up for the public publication. Thank you so much. I know you were trying to avoid coming to the table.
last week on a WSDMO call, so they're our state association, they reported out that Expedia and Airbnb created a report, or actually Deloitte created it for them. And the expectation was originally like 700,000 visitors during the 6-week time frame of FIFA in the Northwest or in the United States. And instead now they've reported out that the expectation is to be 149,000 visitors. And that's the whole West Coast. So it's Vancouver, BC, San Francisco, and Seattle. Of that, 26,000 are expected to stay in Airbnbs. And the other remaining is expected to be in hotels, and that equates to about 900,000 room nights over the 6-week period. And again, it's inclusive of all regular travel and FIFA travel. It's not extra on top of normal travel that we'll see during that time period. Also, the country of Belgium had a call last Friday morning with Visit Seattle, and Visit Seattle reported out on that call that they expect no more than 700 people from their country to fly here for any of the games that Belgium has. And I believe Belgium, if I might be wrong, is playing somewhere near here. It might even be Seattle. But they only expect 700 people to fly here, which is very low. And they were kind of blown away and pretty disappointed. But also they were just reporting out what they knew to be true from the country themselves and their team. And then they also reported out that 9,800 people from their country do live in the United States, and they do expect some to travel to fan zones and games, but that's throughout the United States, not just on the West Coast or Seattle. So ultimately, it was pretty disappointing news, and that's all I have. Any questions?
Just good information to share. And then like outside of that, just international travel is in the dumps. And that's gonna have an effect on a lot of things going on in our country.
Exactly.
Any other questions?
Thank you for being
I
here.
appreciate your time and look forward to working with you.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Gorgas Open Space Tax Program application, public hearing follow-up from our December 16th public hearing on this application. And we have CPAD staff to walk us through it.
We actually have a coordinated effort here. We also have someone from the assessor's office, Jeremiah Olson. Good morning, Commissioners. Ashley Rye, Community Planning and Economic Development Director. I am joined here today by our Open Space Tax Program lead within CPED, Marissa Wismit. And as we mentioned, we are fortunate to have Jeremiah Olson here as well from the assessor's office, since this is a follow-up to the December 16th public hearing. And some of the questions that were raised by public commenters and then also by the board included questions about our taxing districts and assessments, and thought it'd be best to have someone who actually works in the assessor's office answer those rather than CPED. We thought it'd be helpful to just go through a high-level background of the open space tax program that we have here at the county, and then we can dive into the actual application being considered by the board. This is just a quick quote right out of the Open Space Taxation Act. It kind of grounds our open space tax program. This applies to all jurisdictions here within Washington, but the purpose of it is to maintain, preserve, conserve, and otherwise continue existence of open space lands for the production of food, fiber, forest crops, and to assure use and enjoyment of natural resources and scenic beauty for the economic well-being of the state and its citizens. And since we're following right up on Shauna's presentation, this fits in nicely. This is one of the reasons that people visit Thurston County, is because of all of our beautiful open space and natural resource gems. So just a program overview. So the open space tax program, the way it works is that it provides incentives for landowners to keep their land in open space by lowering the taxes on properties that meet certain criteria. There are actually multiple programs that exist within the county under the Open Space Taxation Act. Most of them live within the assessor's office, and they apply specifically to farms and forest lands. The provisions or criteria for those are laid out in state law. So the assessor's office, they take in applications, they make sure that properties meet state law, and then they decide whether they're eligible to go into the program and or remain in the program. The one other program that exists under the Open Space Taxation Act lives within CPED, and that's the board's program. So for a property that doesn't meet all of the criteria laid out in state law, we establish a public benefit rating system. So that's where you're allowed as a board to decide that a property is eligible because they're protecting important species that have been identified in our critical areas ordinance, or they are a farm, but maybe they are not as big of a farm that would qualify under the assessor's program. So there's some flexibility there. So how do we operate the program? Whether it's the assessor's office or CPED, we make sure that they're meeting their criteria, either laid out in state law and the RCWs, and or the tax program guidelines, our public benefit rating system, which is approved by the board. It was more recently updated, I think it was 2024, to make it a little bit easier for farms to be eligible. The property tax reduction results from the open space classification because the land is valued, at least for assessment purposes, on the basis of its current use and not its highest and best use. And so most of these lands could be developed, you know, with the in alignment with the underlying zoning of like 1 house per 5 acres. This incentivizes them to not develop because they get a break in their taxes, and there are penalties for developing those lands. The reduction, at least within the board's program, of that market value is directly tied to the buffer system. So how much of a reduction is gonna be reflective on the value of that property for natural resources. So getting to just the specific proposal that is being considered, and that we held a public hearing on in December 16th. It is located in the Bald Hills area, in Commissioner Grant's district. It totals 77 acres. The application would keep about 15 acres of this in farm and ag land for long-term conservation and 62 acres for significant wildlife habitat area. Planning Commission did recommend approval. Like I said, the public hearing was held on December 16th, so we are looking for final action within the next board meeting.
What's the green on that?
Oh, those are wetlands. So this is taken directly from our geodata. And so what you see there are wetlands.
Everything within the red square is gonna be
Yep, so
subject to the.
Yep, the 70 acres within that parcel. And so you'll see a lot of it is in wetlands, which if conserved will provide habitat for species of local importance in our critical areas ordinance. And then this was something that I did not have on the tip of my tongue when the questions were asked during the hearing, but this is the information that we did share with the Planning Commission regarding the tax assessment. We have Jeremiah here if you have any questions, but essentially you'll see, so the land is valued currently at $355,000 with a levy rate of 7.19 per $1,000. The principal taxes currently would be $2,560 with the adjustment, the 50% reduction. They would see 1,280 or 1,280. And with that, I'd just open it up to questions.
Well, the next piece of it, obviously, which is what the public comment is about, is that we don't just lose the 1280, it gets incrementally given to all the people in over what space? Like the whole county?
No, so the TCA, so the way that works is a tax code area, so this is in
What is that?
TCA
That's what we need more
182.
information about, I think.
A tax code area, think of a Venn diagram. It is a parcel with specific tax districts that lie within that parcel. And so this one, I don't know if you got the piece of paper, but it has the Elm School District, it's rural. I did the math based off of,
right now.
yeah, perfect. So I did the math based off of last year's levy rates and what the shift would have been to all the taxpayers. I think the typical $500,000 house, what would their tax have done? There's a lot of numbers here. Their taxes would have increased by 1 penny if this parcel would have been cut in half for its assessed
One
value.
penny per year or one penny
1
per
penny
minute?
per year.
Okay.
And that could change up or down depending upon what happens in that district, right? Like, fire districts go out and they get a levy lid lift, their bonds get passed, school levies get passed, things of that nature. So just for last year, it would have been 1 penny increase for that, but it could be very different in the future.
And so, like, 1 penny over.
The entire year for a house that's worth,
In terms of geography,
Yeah.
over how many, like, are we talking about Yelm or
well,
like?
yeah, I can send you a map.
It doesn't have to be
of that.
exact, I just
It's
wanna
big.
ballpark.
It's really big, so if you look at all the districts in there, you're gonna see things like Medic One, which is a countywide district, you're gonna have the county, all of our levies in there. You're gonna have things like state school, so they are paying into state school, this would be reduced of state school. I put no change because it's such a small amount of value, and I can't calculate that because I get that value sent to me from the school. So that is every parcel in the entire state pays into state school part 1 and 2. The smallest district, so the one that would be most heavily impacted in this area would be Yelm Cemetery 2. That is the smallest in value and the smallest geographical tax district within this.
I'm not talking about these things, I'm talking about the average homeowner that pays a penny.
Yeah.
Is that every homeowner in Thurston County? No.
No, this is every homeowner within just tax code area 182.
And how big is, like, generally speaking, how big is a tax code area? How many are there in the county?
hundreds. There's a lot.
So it's a smallish
It's a pretty
area.
small, but this would have, yes, this would affect somebody in Olympia because we also pay into the other county funds, and you can see that the rate increased for current expense by 0.000002. So the fractions of pennies do affect everybody countywide. That is true, but it mostly impacts the people within the same tax code area as this
Oh, cause
parcel.
they'll have the most overlapping
Correct.
districts. Okay, that's yeah,
So that's why you
complicated, but
said
I
Venn
get it.
diagram.
Yeah, it's a giant Venn diagram of different they're not circles, different polygons connecting
We're talking about cents here.
fractions of cents.
Yeah, no, I'm just understanding the structure. I understand what we're doing. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer that a penny to have open space preserved in this county. I mean, that's why the whole program exists and, so, but I just thought, there were questions and, I mean, that kind of nitty-gritty understanding of the mechanics, I think is useful for the board to hear.
I found the map of the tax code area, if you want me
Yes.
to pull it up.
Yeah.
Amy, if you'll let me in onto Zoom. Cause I'm a visual person and I needed to see it too. I was like, wait, what, like? Okay. 1 second, I'll be right there.
Have permissions to share screen as a guest on the Zoom. If you'd like to send me a link.
Oh, there, I sent you the request to share. So this is tax area 182.
Everything within that brown line, or no, that's the county line.
That's the county line. 1 sec, let me zoom out. I'll let JJ explain.
That
it.
whole area is, or?
Oh, shoot. So this is, it says it's tax area 182.
Yes, it's quite large. It is.
It's quite
182 is really, really big.
A lot of pennies.
Southeast quarter of Thurston County.
So it's the brown line?
Yeah, so
Can you
it's,
zoom
well,
out just a little bit?
so the brown line is the county line, but it's basically like where the,
Yes.
Okay, so just,
so this is all 182 over here.
okay.
That's 333.
Yeah, so it's outside of the cities, part of Yelm School District.
Okay.
Yes.
And the gist of it, so just, I'm gonna ask my question, which would be that it's spread so wide that it's about a penny a piece.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay.
That's assuming the value of $500,000.
And this one is even less than that currently, 'cause it's just
So it's
landed
where
on.
the white line, kind of
Oh,
like the
white
the
line, I
white
see the
line.
white lines,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
There we go. So it's where the white line is. This is all 182.
Okay,
Does it go
goes
across?
all the way up. it
Well,
looks
it goes
like,
across 507 and
into
Yeah.
it.
It does.
Yep.
So it's like kind of that whole.
Okay,
I'm thinking 120,000 pennies to give a $1,200 tax break. Right?
yeah.
You gotta come up with those pennies. All right, other questions on all of that?
So next steps would be placing this on your next board meeting as a consent agenda item for approval, if that sounds.
Thumbs up to put this on the agenda for approval. Yeah. Commissioner Claus?
Yep, that sounds good to me.
Okay, looks like we're
I
agreed.
do have one more follow-up question. I
Yeah.
just, sorry.
Go for it.
I was meaning to ask and then I like, I'm wondering, so for these open space tax and programs, I know we did one before, but I'm trying to kind of remember, do we do site visits for this just to be sure that, you know, the site, you know, besides just doing GIS and like, do we go up there and?
Marissa is our field biologist, and so each one of these sites gets walked by her. And Planning Commission, I'm sorry I didn't bring all the site photos that we shared with the Planning Commission, but
Will you, when you come to the meeting, have some pictures?
I'm sorry.
When you come in for the meeting, for approval, share pictures?
So we could email
Like
them.
pictures? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
we
on
could,
consent, she
they're
said.
actually, I think they're included in the initial packet that was sent with the e-brief. It was just in October.
Okay. And,
We didn't bring them for.
and again, what are the continued uses that are allowable once this is set aside for
That's my
open
question
space?
too.
So it stays in farm and agriculture, and so you'll see the picture of the bees here on the front. I guess there are pictures, cause the
Yes,
first
Apiary
picture
on site.
here, these are pictures of the site.
also in the staff report that I had submitted with the original application packet and the more extended slideshow.
Everybody watching.
But yeah, 15 acres, they'll continue to hay and raise honeybees, and then the remainder would be maintained as significant wildlife habitat area. And in addition to my visit, which is always one of the initial steps with these applications, they did have two qualified biologists, a wetland scientist as well as a DNR biologist that reviewed the property and developed their report and habitat management plan, just verifying that the habitat and species were on site.
Thank you for that. That was one of the we received a couple comments about there being just different things that being disturbed, so I was wanting to be sure that we address that on the record. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is bylaws chapter 1, and in our packet, there was, for the clerk, because I had some questions on 4 items, and then. So, Amy, can you tell us, like, there was a clean version and a red line-ish version?
Yeah.
I say ish, because there's some's red, some's blue, but, was the red line version, was that your kind of edits based on input you got from the commissioners?
Correct. The red line version was the changes made from the original version provided in December that we.
Okay, and I looked at that kind of quickly because a lot of the comments were mine, and I knew you were just synthesizing the discussion we'd already had. Commissioner Grant, I know you sent an email forward yesterday with some more detail, and so
Yes, and I reviewed that this morning and I just wanna say that I think that there was a little mix up in that, and that it looks like most of what I asked to be incorporated was incorporated, so I appreciate it. I just did I appreciate my assistant helping but I did review again this morning just to verify. There was just a couple little things there. I saw a couple typos, just to point those out to you guys really quick. Yeah, it just in the form of government section there, I saw this morning, that it says kind of in the middle sentence, the board delegates day-to-day executive authority to a county manager.
Which section?
Sorry. Yeah, form of government on the page 6.
I see that, thank you.
Yep, there's just a space that needs, and then at the end of that sentence, there's 2 periods.
Thank you.
That's it. That's the only, the rest, I would say, I think almost everything I had a comment on was incorporated. I mean,
I thought that, I'm glad to hear that
Yeah.
that's true, because I was,
anyway.
all right. Well, then we have a possibility of approving these, moving to chapter 2. Amy,
That's
can you
right.
tell us what the status of that is? You told us, I think, so you told me one-on-one that's coming shortly.
Yeah, the chapter 2 is done, so those will be headed your way this week.
Okay, so we'll move along.
Like, just as we continue with this, it might get more difficult to find consensus. And, like, my expectation, if I forward some suggestions, I have no expectation that those are put in verbatim in your final copy. I trust your ability to synthesize the collective will and then bring us a product that we can then at this board decide and hash out on. So, you know, like just so everybody understands that, you know, like if we're firing off, you know, suggestions to Amy, if those don't get put in verbatim, that's kind of the way it's supposed to work. So just to manage those expectations and make sure that our EAs understand that as well, the final decisions are made here at this board, not, you know, outside unilaterally giving directives or admonishment for not incorporating our wishes in there exactly.
Sure, that's why all edits will be brought to the full board for direction.
Thank you.
Commissioner Klaus?
Thank you. I'm trying to understand the cautionary remarks from Commissioner Fournier. I think Amy does a great job of bringing forward items that have been asked to be synthesized, but my understanding is also that comments will be relayed to the full board, and if not, I think it's each individual commissioner's prerogative to bring it up at the meeting. So if any clarification is needed, that'd be appreciated, but otherwise, I'm not really understanding where those remarks are coming from Commissioner Fournier.
I don't want to speak for him, but I was just like, if Commissioner Grant, for example, if you're, like, I didn't get a chance to cross-reference what was in your email with the thing, but let's just say there were differences, right? My suggestion was gonna be, and I think this is in line with what you said, my suggestion was gonna be, okay, now take, you know, like red line your version first, sir, so we can just look, and then the board would discuss those. Yeah, it wouldn't be just incorporated, but it would be brought forward for discussion if they were substantive and important for us to figure out. That was gonna be my suggestion, but it sounds like we don't need to do that. But, you know, there's a balance between, I've never seen, and again, this is 5 board, I've had multiple experiences with the 3-person board, utter failures to try to wordsmith documents like this. So I'm to me, it's a balance of trying to find like everybody having their input in the best way, but yet not bogged down into complete paralysis because of a process. Yeah.
We greatly appreciate Commissioner Grant's review and being prepared for this meeting. So I know there's a proposed motion if the board feels like we've incorporated the comments.
Yeah, and I will just say that I think that there were just I appreciate that, you know, you did a great job on, you know, my suggestions weren't all completely incorporated, but the gist of it was done, and I think, and I appreciate you to, you know, taking the time to look through each of those and incorporating them. So, you know, I get it. I think we took a little literally last night, and so I just didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance to review that yesterday. It's my fault.
No,
but I think it looks good to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Klaus.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Amy, for putting this together. I know that there was a lot going on last year at the end of the year when you were kind of working on getting this completed. So I appreciate you bringing it up to us so early in the year. I think that's awesome. Good job. And then just as a response to Commissioner Mentzer's comments, that makes sense as far as the process. I'm recalling some situation last year where you and I, Commissioner Mentzer, gave some comments, some feedback to Amy on a topic. I can't remember the exact topic, but she was able to forward our comments to the full board. And I don't know if that was related to bylaws or something else, but that makes sense as far as the process for this, especially as it gets more complicated down the road.
And Amy did forward both comments, Commissioner Grant's and Commissioner Mentzer's comments, to the full board in prep for our work session last time. And then the direction after the board looked at those was to direct Amy to synthesize. So I agree with Commissioner Klaus that she did a good job processing that as she was wrangling, closing up the year, making sure resolution numbers were on point, all the things that a clerk does, she clerks well.
Well, to Commissioner Fournier's point, like it was useful that Commissioner Grant and I's comments were almost identical in this case, and there may be ones in the future where we have totally different comments, and then it'll be a harder job for Amy. And you may want to have like, you know, alternate language or whatever. But I feel like you kind of understand the task at hand, and will make kind of smart decisions to guide us through it as we try to put 5 people's brain powers together into one document.
Yeah, I think I trust that Amy understands it. want us to all be cautious that there shouldn't be any emails sent to Amy. Well, you didn't put in there what I wanted. Because if it's not in there, if what you want is not in there, that discussion then happens here. Yeah, and then we make a decision together.
Commissioner Mejia, you look perplexed. You okay?
Oh, yep.
Okay. Do we want to make a motion today or? Okay,
So moved.
is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve chapter 1 of the bylaws has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Klaus, did I get you?
Yep, I said aye.
Okay, perfect. That's unanimous.
And Chair, again, just special thanks to Amy for pioneering and spearheading a useful and needed tool for this board, bylaws, and understanding the history of some of the pitfalls you lightly touched upon where things got wordsmith. I'm really proud of this board for, there's a lot going on, and you're all involved in a lot of committees. So we appreciate your time and attention to reviewing things and being prepared like you were today. So well done.
Thank you all.
Quick question, so we'll just do the next one, kind of the same process, right? Where it's gonna come out, we'll have a chance to review, everyone will submit, we'll come talk about it at the planning together.
Right.
See if everybody's cool with
Yeah.
what we proposed, and then you'll make the red line edits.
That's right.
Okay,
It'll be all of chapter 2?
Yes.
yeah, sounds good.
And we'll just keep doing that until we get through.
5 chapters, a journey of 5 chapters
There you
begins
go.
with chapter 1. Good job, guys.
Thank you, Amy.
All right. Reports on committees, and I know Commissioner Fournier does.
My VCB committee was reported out.
That was a
on.
really depressing report, by the way. Thank you for bumming me
Yeah,
out.
that the reality of the international travel scene is pretty bleak and harsh. But the VCB seems to be off to a good start this year. It's definitely in good hands with Shauna as interim director. The EDC and the VCB are working hand in hand once again. And that's really, really good to see because, you know, I wholeheartedly believe that tourism is the greatest opportunity for economic activity in our region. So it's good to see that.
I was gonna comment on that, I don't know, I am not a soccer fan, right, so. But I will tell you that I traveled internationally for sports, and we went to see the Raiders play in London, the Seahawks play the Raiders in London, my husband and I did, and one of the things we noticed, was domestic travel within England, so everyone came to watch, cause they don't get to see an NFL game, so I think that's gonna be one of our biggest drivers will be that people who are within the United States, who don't usually get to go to one of these big games, will be traveling to see their favorite team. So that's kind of, it was crazy in the stands at the Raiders game because it wasn't just Raiders and Seahawks jerseys. It was anybody, it was like people wearing Patriots jerseys and Green Bay jerseys and even a Pittsburgh jersey.
Yeah.
But they were everywhere and they just were like, we were just happy to see an NFL game. So, yeah, hopefully.
Well, I think,
Yeah.
I don't wanna open up a can of worms, but it's obviously international politics is affecting this event and it's
Yep.
unfortunate.
Yep.
So, kinda bummed out about that, but I think one of the things regionally that could be important for however many people are here in terms of the success of the fan zones is that concept of, like, we'll get a certain number of people from Thurston County to come because, however we market that and showcase that, but that whole thing about to the extent that they're supposed to provide competitions and stuff for people to visit all the fan zones, like they're gonna have like stars coming to certain fan zones and like you get points if you like hit every fan zone, like that I think will mobilize a lot of people from outside Thurston County to come to our fan zone. So I hope that FIFA really, or the folks organizing this really line that up and then we run with that. Cause that could be that's I think our most powerful thing to get people here that, wouldn't come here otherwise. Cause there's gonna be multiple fans. I mean, Pierce County is doing a huge thing with Puyallup Tribe.
Puyallup Tribes, they're going
big. Puyallup Tribe's going really big. So I mean, though, our people will come here, but to get people from outside the region to come here, it will need to kind of have that sort of dynamic.
And the VCB is in alignment with it now. They weren't previously. But she didn't really get into it a lot, but their digital marketing scheme and plan for this is pretty robust. So they're doing a good job of that.
That is exciting. I think that's an accomplishment for this board. 2025, we didn't really highlight that, but the board really worked to set a new pathway.
Yeah.
And I know that several commissioners were involved in different conversations with the mayors, conversations with the VCB board members, to talk about how there could be a greater partnership. I was really excited to hear from their own, like, we didn't talk about those talking points. VCB brought that, and Fan Zone was part of that because they know it's something happening regionally. And for them to get behind it is where the vision of this board was, I think in 2024, because it was talked about when I first came. So good job with all of your interactions with different board members. And it's great to see that even the interim process was something that some of the mayors came up with to say, let's do an interim, get someone experienced, settle things down, get a good direction, which I think is proving to be very healthy for the DCB and to provide reconnectivity before they bring somebody in, because we want that person to be successful.
Shauna mentioned that she was, from 15 to 20. So she was the director when I joined the board. And at that point, like, Experience Living Beyond was one of those organizations in the community that was just like dialed in,
Yes.
well run,
Yes.
well respected. They put on events. They were like, it was like everybody was all about them. And then to see that kind of, tail off and crumble, and then, when you came on and you had more knowledge and enthusiasm for it, and you were highlighting some of the issues, and I didn't, I hadn't really in my mind, I still had the Shauna Stewart glow, right? And it was like, I didn't realize it because, because I just sort of assumed that was a dialed in organization. So, I think it was awesome that we were able to entice her to to be this interim and help us kind of push forward to get where we were before, because I thought they did a great job back in those times. So that's good. So it was a good meeting overall?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, sorry I had to dip out early. I heard that there were some public comments that had, I don't know, they didn't know where I was going or thought I was leaving for
I think
God knows what,
Commissioner
but-
Mejia told me, and I said it, and then I think that person was still there, so hopefully that person that made that comment heard that I.
Yeah,
you had
well,
to-
the funny part about the person that made the comment is she's on the VCB board as well.
Oh, really?
And she's on the port, and she was unable to make the meeting because of the port meeting. So I mean,
That's
ultimately I messaged her and she knew exactly where I was going, so the comment was, yeah, whatever.
Any other reports on committees?
Nope, the only thing I really have been to is Nisqually River Council, and they're not too, one thing that I don't have, and I don't have the exact information, but they were able to, the land trust was able to purchase 70 additional acres recently.
Oh, wonderful.
And so that's good news. My assistant had to go to that meeting for me, and so, but other than that, that's the only thing I've attended really, since I already gave you, I will say, since Wayne's here, that, and because you weren't here the other day when I was talking about Transportation Policy Board, is wanting us to, if we have any federal priorities or any priorities that we wanna lift up for transportation, that we should be start as a group, talking about that. So that was the only thing kind of on my list. And then at Law and Justice, I will say that, and I know Emily, that's Emily's, and I'm an alternate, but I will say it was really cool because it was more of a roundtable, where and it was really packed. There was a lot of people represented at Law and Justice, and it was neat because we went through and talked about what people want to hear about this year. And so a lot of different topics were brought up, and you could tell where the energy is all kind of geared towards, the jail and well, the different parts of the system that get people in and out of the jail. So, yeah.
Have they filled the citizen seats? Because I know, like, we created those seats, and then the folks that were in them, I think their terms expired, and at some point they were, one or two of them were empty. But are those filled? I think there's two.
I think they were filled back in.
I don't remember.
I can't think of who that would be that was there, so that would be Emily. Do you know?
Do you know if the citizen seats are filled?
I believe they were filled several months ago, like they were renewed shortly after the seats became vacant. At least one of the positions was renewed. I know Kelly Olson
Oh,
retained her seat.
Okay, correct. Yeah, Kelly was one
Yeah.
and Steve Tilley was the other.
oh yeah, they're there. They're both there.
Yeah,
Still there?
and
Okay.
Steve, yeah, when Steve introduces himself now, he calls himself a concerned community member, not necessarily the community representative. So I think his seat was actually filled with somebody else, but Kelly Olson is still in her seat and Steve still attends every meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, yes, I forgot.
Someone else, I don't remember.
One Phyllis always.
Chehalis Basin Flood Authority, forgot to talk about that one, so, I've had my meeting with them. The hot topic with the Chehalis Basin Flood Authority is, right now, is the Chehalis, the overflow dam. And, you know, it's part of a bigger suite of strategies that they've put together for flood mitigation throughout the Chehalis Basin, so everywhere from like Mossy Rock to Ocean Shores is covered, and they've got all kinds of different things going on in the different areas. But the big topic is the overflow dam. They've held multiple community meetings. There was one in Centralia, there was one online, there was one out in, where was it, Boyce Fort, which is some area way out in the middle of the woods. But there's a lot of talk going on about that. The Flood Authority itself had a vote the other day to accept their strategy in full. I told them that I could not vote on that. I said that my board, I said that is not decided on whether or not they support the dam itself. I said that we passed a resolution that supported the strategy at a high level, but but intentionally left reference to the dam out of that resolution. And that I'm not on that board as a representative of Wayne, so I can't make that decision on my own, and I would need to take back any discussion of this to the board and get a board vote and then carry that vote to them, whether it was a yes or no or but right now Thurston County is an abstention from that. There has been a little bit of concern from some of the flood authority members because, and this is, I don't fully understand it, this is somehow tied to other funding for everything. So I don't know if they're needing a carte blanche support of this entire strategy, or it threatens funding for, say, the pump stations in Aberdeen, or what. So I would like to understand that better somehow. Maybe there's staff that can get us all up to speed, because I don't want to go there and vote on the county's behalf for something that would be controversial for all our members here at this table.
You've done a lot of work
Well,
on that.
I mean, what Commissioner Fournier just summarized is pretty much
Yeah,
right. And
Ty and I have talked about it quite a
it's
bit.
pretty much right in line with the position that I've taken.
Which
I
is an
mean,
abstention as
well,
well.
I've either advocated to kind of put, like, there was one time when there was a letter, I know, and like I got a footnote added that basically said Thurston County's, kind of laid out that we're still sort of on the fence, so to speak. I just really never brought it to the board because it never, this process has taken so long. The many years I was on there, like I never got forced into a corner to have to take a vote on it. It sounds like it's really.
I don't know, maybe I'm getting forced into a corner. I didn't get a late night phone call
Yeah.
from another county commissioner. And it was, and then there's also like, hey, the dam's never gonna happen. It's a $2 billion dam, but it's in this package. So,
Well, that's why.
so it's like, it's almost like.
Well, that's why I advocated for that sort of modified resolution that we all passed.
Mhm.
That was my idea. Is like, I want to give them the tools to get the money for all the different good projects that are going on.
Fry Creek Pump Station
So
in
that-
Aberdeen is important to all
So
of
they
us.
can go to the legislature and go, every jurisdiction has passed a resolution supporting the Chehalis Basin strategy. But the Chehalis Basin strategy says that they're gonna try to get to a workable solution on the dam. It doesn't say this is the goal of the project, because the tribes wouldn't be for that. In order to keep everyone working together, it's always had to be conditional on environmental study and mitigation
Yeah.
and looking at impacts to fish and all
those
these
things would
things.
never pass this dam, is what I'm told, but
Well, I mean,
at the
there's
same time,
differences
I don't
of
wanna-
opinion about
yeah,
that.
I don't want us to, I can't, unless you guys tell me to sign on to it,
Yeah.
I don't feel I can sign on to it. And I don't wanna sign on to something that's also just kind of a,
And a little more history is that like at a certain point, the group decided that, okay, we know a lot about that, we've studied and we have an EIS on this proposed dam, but we really haven't done like a plan B, so they call it the land, local alternatives analysis or whatever, but it's basically saying, if we didn't do a dam, and we did everything else you could possibly do that's not a dam, would that, like, how much flood relief could you get from that? Like, so, and the tribes Quinault tribe, I think in particular, was big on saying, we're not gonna throw down for the dam until we know that we've looked at the alternatives and like really thoroughly explored at the same level of detail as the dam's been explored, what a suite of other non-dam projects could do to mitigate flood across the basin. And that analysis was kind of wrapping up as I kind of transitioned this committee to Commissioner Forner. So, you know, I went to a seminar on it fairly recently, just trying to, you know, and you know, what's interesting about it is it doesn't do the same amount of good in certain places. You know, the dam is like, Chehalis Basin can be flooded from multiple sources.
Yeah.
That's the problem with this whole thing. Like, it's not just one place that you have to block. So the dam would mitigate the place that's most frequently caused the most damage, but it could certainly come from, and I can't name all the rivers, Newaukum and blah, 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 but there's other places that they could experience similar flooding. So although the local alternatives wouldn't necessarily do as much good in that one spot as the dam, it could do sort of a more of a balanced approach and sort of mitigate across all the different places, because the projects would be, you know, kind of spread out.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's kind of that sort of thought process. And so the Quinault, so I had always taken the position, I kind of, you know, nestled in behind the Quinault tribe and said, yeah, I'm not saying no, but I want to see a full analysis of the other alternatives, and I did want to see how the tribes would react to ultimately when all the information was on the table, like where would they see?
I know how they're reacting now.
Yeah, and I didn't, you
They're
know,
not happy about
yeah, and I think
the
they've
dam proposal.
they've sharpened their positions
Yeah.
since this last year. And again, I you know, I look to them, to their leadership too, for this whole area is area that they have historic knowledge about and understanding of, and a lot of the values that I hold. But, you know, I've always been respectful of the, you know, that, I moved here in 2007. It was like within the first 6 months of my moving to this area was that humongous, you know, flood. And so, you know, I understand that, you know, that was damaging to the community, was damaging to the regional economy. I mean, there's definitely value in expenditure of resources to try to help.
And I think things have been done. If you look
Yeah.
at this last flood event, that it was very safely handled. So, you know, I think there has been a lot of work done, but so I will stick with an abstention, you know, and I'll look to get more information if there is in fact some type of funding package that is tied to some dam vote. Then I would come to you all and seek
I haven't seen
guidance
that that's the situation. I mean, they get money for the strategy, and it's,
in a lot of different ways.
yeah, and it's, so I mean, that's new if that's what's going on. It
Yeah,
hasn't-
there's not some giant check that comes out for this to pay for the entire strategy that isn't given if everything isn't.
If everybody
signed up.
hasn't
Yeah.
said, we're doing
Yeah.
the dam for sure, that's not how it's structured.
Yes.
So that would be surprising to me. I'm very comfortable with how you articulated the position that you're
Okay.
taking on my side.
I mean, it seems that there's a lot of history there. It's very
Incredible
complicated.
amount of history.
And I just hearing your conversation, I wouldn't even know which way to like look. And so I think if they want Thurston County to take a position, I for sure will need more information on this one and try to learn more on this piece. So
Yeah, I would caution if we get to a point where we have to take a position, yes or no, in a definitive manner, the board needs to be educated, you know, because it's gonna be a big deal. You're gonna get a lot of input about it, and I would caution all the board members to take that seriously. And
Well, you're not gonna see a surprise vote from me. So I will continue that, and I'll continue talking to Commissioner Menzer about it. And I speak regularly to the Chehalis tribal members about it and their leadership, so I'll keep doing that if that pleases the board.
perfect.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I agree with that.
Commissioner Klaus, anything you want to report from committees?
Yes, thank you. So Commissioner Grant gave a little overview of the Law and Justice Council. As she stated, the topic of the jail came up again and continues to be a focus. I want to let the board know that next Friday on the 30th, my EA was able to set up a tour of the Washington County Community Correction Center. So I'll be heading down there with the sheriff, the undersheriff, Prosecutor Thunheim, and I believe Rachel's EA is coming along. I know Rachel was going to try to make it, but can't due to unforeseen circumstances, which is totally okay. So there's one space available if there's anybody who wants to attend that tour. But I'm hoping to bring back some good information about what that model entails, and if there are any components of that that seem feasible to address some of our jail issues, then that would be good to talk about. Commissioner Menzer and I toured that together a couple years ago, and I think there's a lot of good stuff to take away from it. So I will report back on that after I'm finished with it. And then as far as the conversation we had just a minute ago, Shelley Willis is the other community member seat, and I believe she took Steve Tilley's seat. So that's who has that. And then Kelly Olson is still in her seat. So that's it for Law and Justice. And then for Orca, last week we had a finance committee meeting. It was the first time I chaired a finance committee meeting. We reviewed the fiscal year 2026 second quarter update, and we also had an update on the situation with the core grants. You might remember in my last update about Orca, we've been following this closely. We get state and federal core grant money, and both of those funding sources have significantly decreased. The federal core grant funding, I still think we're waiting on an answer as far as whether or not we'll get that. But for the state funding, the core grant has been reduced by about 65%. So that has a significant impact on operations that has yet we're starting to feel the impacts of that decrease, and we're hoping for more information soon. I know that staff for Orca, we're planning on meeting with representatives from the state late last week. So I'm hoping to hear an update from them soon. If not, it'll be at the next meeting. So more to come on that. We also had a review of the proposed fee increases for asbestos and demolition. It turns out that after staff were able to analyze the program budget, they found that the current asbestos and demolition fees have been failing to cover the cost of the program. They haven't been increased for a very long time. So at the Finance Committee meeting, staff was seeking approval to move ahead with a new fee structure starting in fiscal year 2027, which would include a rule change allowing for notifications to be distributed for each structure rather than each property. And the proposed fee change would be in alignment with the fees of other local air agencies. This came up during the Finance Committee meeting, and there were some concerns raised by some members of the Finance Committee. There's a lot of caution about raising fees, understandably, and the risk of raising fees too much or too quickly could result in compliance issues that would cost money on a different end of the scale. So we're trying to avoid having issues that arise related to that. So rather than just approving the new fee structure, we chose to have the staff bring it back at the next meeting after doing a little bit more analysis on whether or not we could do like a step process or a phased approach to the increased fees. So I will report back on that once we decide which direction we're going to take. But I also will send out, if the board's interested, I'll probably just send it anyways to the county manager and the clerk to distribute to the full board. But there's a briefing memo on those fees and the justification for why we need to increase them. So I'll send that out just in case anyone wants to review it. It has a lot more information. And I'm happy to answer questions after the board has had a chance to review that. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Mejia?
Thank you. Sorry, I was looking to see if I could, I went with Leah down Commissioner Klaus, but I won't be available next Friday. So best of luck.
Thank you. I'm glad you've seen it before. That's good to know.
Let's see, so I've just been on legislative items, because I'm one of the co-chairs and I'm here locally. I feel like I get tapped quite a bit, especially when there's, when some commissioners are not able to make it.
It's an awesome opportunity, though. It's a great place to be in.
Yeah, it's great. So I've been testifying on several just revenue option bills, just for right now. April Berg is working on basically with the counties to come up with like this. It's going to be a pretty big bill that's going to have basically all of these different revenue options that kind of WASAC discussed over the fall next year of things that might not, don't take money from the state, but for us counties, it makes a big impact financially. It's like little things here and there. And so we made this huge list of recommendations. It's moving right now through the House. So I've also been serving on the Risk Pool Legislative Committee, and it really, the conversation I think for the committee has just been around keeping the insurance rates down. So basically, any bill that's going through, our lobbyist is looking through those bills and being sure that it's not going to be like a landmine hidden in there. So that's been kind of a lot of work, just tracking on different bills and making sure that there's not going to be a cost additionally for counties that, we didn't foresee that liability, and that it puts that liability specifically on us. So the risk pool is trying to help that way. I think they heard enough complaining from some counties, including myself, about just the rate increases and how that's really impacting us. This is not one of the committees from here, but it's one I serve on, the National Association of Hispanic County Officials. So Congresswoman Randall and Commissioner Fournier attended our last meeting and gave an overview on both the congressional bill that she has going through right now as well, and Commissioner Fournier gave kind of the local one and the state that's working through. And so the membership voted to move it forward and submitted a resolution to NACO yesterday. So we worked on that. It's going to be presented to the NACO membership in February during the NACO conference. And then it's going to be voted on if anyone's going to be going to the main NACO conference. I know you mentioned interest. That's going to be the main vote. So I'll probably be tapping you and be sure that, you can support that. I'm not sure who else is going to be going to the main one. And then I do have for future items, I heard a lot of great things about the Law and Justice Council. I actually got calls, and I actually had a great conversation with Mayor Dante Payne, and it was after the Law and Justice Council. And we talked about a couple different things, but he talked to me in length about the just immigration coordination piece. And so it's active conversations I've been having not only with different council members from across, but just, community members. And it's something I get asked a lot about. And so you know, we talked at length about a couple of different ideas and we brainstormed. And so after that conversation and kind of with that idea, I followed up afterwards with council members from like Tumwater and Lacey to like see their, you know, kind of broach them on their interests and thoughts about like coordination, like what does that look like? And so I just kind of wanted to let the board know that I'm working with the county manager and hoping that we will come back with a plan to see like if it's something that the board is interested in doing. But just wanted to make the board kind of aware of those conversations happening and that way.
So like a coordination team for communication, that was
Yeah.
the big topic, right? Was
Yeah.
that how do we coordinate with Ellie, with law enforcement?
And so one of the things that like me and Dante talked about, so we have you know, quarterly like emergency response, that emergency response kind of brings together all the different elected officials from different groups. And we talked about maybe doing something like that, bringing everyone in. Let me look at the main email. About bringing everyone in, and 1 second. And just kind of because what I've heard, right, North Thurston School District has a really good like plan. Like they have it, like what they're ready to go. They have their go plan. OSD is still working on theirs. Other school districts are struggling to like put one together. And so I think just getting everyone in one room and just hearing from each other is going to be a very effective way. So that's kind of part of like what we talked about. And then I also think that, you know, one of the things we talked about is kind of like that we, this was done at NACO, the immigration task force that they have. For one of their meetings, they did like an immigration 101 piece, and it kind of just basically relayed out, and it was talked also about at the Law and Justice Council because so many people were impressed, like they didn't know all this information. And so I realized, right, like immigration has been like a big part of my life. I, you know, went through the process myself, but not only that, like I help people work through the process. I worked in immigration for a long time, so I'm familiar with the process. Not everyone is very familiar with the process. And just doing like a 101, like when we're talking about immigrants, like what does it mean, like, you know, to have a visa? There's different kind of visas that people fall under. And just doing like just a high level overview. That way there's like, you know, there can be some education behind that as well. And so that's kind of another piece where, I mean, I know me and the county manager have just kind of, so I just wanted to make the board aware, just, you know, as we bring something, I don't want it to be a surprise.
Commissioner Claus?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Commissioner Mejia, for that update. I think Immigration 101 training of any kind would be extremely valuable. There's a lot of misconceptions out there about what it really looks like, and so I think anything that you can help coordinate or bring forward or just bring to our attention would be much appreciated. I would love to participate in something like that. Also, I spoke with Mayor Payne after Law and Justice as well, and we talked about some of the same things. And I'm really interested in working on that. Me and Mayor Payne actually talked about how we could bring that idea forward as far as a regional coordinated response and trying to be proactive about that. We discussed bringing that idea forward to the next Law and Justice Council meeting. So I'm also having similar conversations with some of the same folks you mentioned. And if, you know, it's something I think that we could get together on and discuss since we're both talking to the same people and having similar conversations, since I am able to kind of be that liaison for Law and Justice and the Board of County Commissioners. I would love to be a part of those conversations and just see how I can help in any way.
All right, thank you, guys. Only thing I had to report, I think I talked to Commissioner Mejia individually, but I wanted the board to be aware that Commissioner Grant, when you were talking about the Nisqually River Council, so you have that experience. I'm glad you're on there because I've never been on there. Shayla's Basin Partnership, you were on for a while, I'm on. There's never been a Deschutes Watershed Council, so there's been a long-standing effort to try to stand up a Deschutes Watershed Council. The stakeholder meetings, we tried to get some legislative money. We created a subcommittee last year that tried to kind of work up something more specific, like, okay, we can't get any legislative money, what can we do locally? They finally produced a scope of work. There was a meeting Ashley was able to attend and kind of had a kind of list of questions and gave me some good input. Then I had a follow-up, they asked for a follow-up meeting with me, which I had, and I tried to sort of use our staff's input to inform that. I got pretty good response to all of our, kind of concerns on the staff side from the group. The group DIRT, the Deschutes Estuary Restoration Team, they're kind of the ones, they're part of the subcommittee. There's also other people in the subcommittee. Squax Island Tribe are involved, the City of Tumwater is involved, City of Olympia, Riot 13, Salmon Recovery Group. Anyway, a scope of work is gonna probably come our way. This is just a preview. They've come up with a budget for $41,000 to try to, what it would take this year to lift up this group with some neutral, like, scoping with the consultant and so I think we're gonna be asked for, say somewhat, the preliminary conversation I saw, I think we're gonna be asked for about $12,000. Tumwater apparently has already committed the funds. They haven't got Olympia on board just yet, but that's a conversation coming. I don't know where that money would come from or how we would manage it, but it's a project that, it's been coming down the pike for quite a while. I would like to support it if there's a way to find a funding source for it. So I'm just a preview. It's not before us yet, but that's just a meeting I had last week that I wanted to report on. So
I forgot to report on one thing.
yeah.
Last week, Commissioner Mejia and I went and testified on House Bill 2351. I don't think we talked about that here yet. No.
What is it?
That House Bill
Numbers swirling.
2351 is the statewide bill that is copied off of the ordinance that we've created here, the Emergency Responder Protection Act. So as everybody recalls, earlier this year after the Bear Gulch fire, we at this board proposed a local ordinance that would protect emergency zones from political interference by outside agencies or outside individuals to ensure that the integrity of our emergency scenes are respected. That bill was heard in front of the House Committee on Technology, Economic Development, and Military. I'm not sure how it ended up there, but I think maybe because Representative Cindy Ryu was one of the prime sponsors and she's the chair of that. It was well received. Everything prior to that was getting voted bipartisan, yays, nays, just straight down the line. And then that one came up. There was no vote on it because it was a public hearing. And then the vote, I think, is taking place this week. But it was very well received. And afterwards, representatives from both parties came up afterwards and were talking. I even got phone calls that night saying, hey, we really appreciate it. And the amendments that were suggested, if those are incorporated, they think that they'll have bipartisan support for it from that hearing, which would be pretty awesome. So that's moving forward. But, just in the spirit of that, the intention of that bill, the whole point that this board is trying to tell the world is that emergency zones should be interference-free and free of political interruption and things like that. I think it's important that while we're moving that forward, we don't only talk the talk, we walk the walk. And we should all be very careful in not going out and interfering with any emergency scenes. So just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Anything else for future items? Okay, we're adjourned.